Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin was admitted to the intensive care unit at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center on Monday, January 1st, but it was not made public until the following Friday. The Pentagon says the retired Army general sought help after experiencing severe pain from an elective medical procedure that he had done last month. Senior Biden administration officials tell NBC News the Pentagon waited 3 days to tell the White House about Austin's hospitalization. The secretary released a statement over the weekend taking full responsibility for not disclosing his medical condition, saying he understands the concerns about transparency and he, quote, could have done a better job ensuring the public was appropriately informed. Austin is still in the hospital, but the Pentagon says he's resumed his duties Friday evening and is recovering well. Joining us now, NBC News national security and military correspondent Courtney Kube. Courtney, what more do we know? There are a lot of questions here about disclosure and also who was in charge.
Yeah, I mean, the details, as we learn every new detail about this entire incident, it's more of a head-scratching scenario. So, as you said, Secretary Austin, he was admitted to the hospital on Monday, New Year's Day, so a week ago today. We now know that he had some sort of an elective medical procedure about a week earlier on December 22nd. It required an overnight stay at the hospital at Walter Reed. He was released on the 23rd. But on New Year's Day, he started having severe pains and was taken to the hospital, where he has now been for a week, Mika. He was, and while he was there, he was put into the ICU. Now, fast forward to last Friday, when all week long we were told that Secretary Austin was on leave, and no one really had any idea that he was hospitalized all week long, let alone that he was in the ICU. And in fact, it took us digging to expose that fact, that he was not just in the hospital, but that he was in intensive care. Now, we still don't know what this elective medical procedure is. And frankly, we still don't know how severe his situation, his medical case was at any point during this hospitalization. What we know is that on Tuesday, this is now January 2nd, all of his responsibilities were transferred to Deputy Secretary of Defense Kathleen Hicks. Now, she was on vacation in Puerto Rico at the time. She was not told why she was assuming the responsibilities of the secretary until 2 days later on Thursday. According to a defense official, as soon as she was told that, she started making plans to come back to the U.S., but was told, oh, it's okay, he's going to resume his duties soon anyway, so don't worry about it. And as this has unfolded, we've also learned, Mika, as you said, that in fact he did not notify, nor anyone on his staff notify the White House of this. President Biden, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, they didn't find out about this hospitalization until Thursday. So the reality is there are still a lot more questions than there are answers about this whole situation. What we also know is, as you said, Secretary Austin has taken responsibility for not disclosing this publicly to the media. But we still haven't heard about exactly why it was that the White House wasn't notified. Of course, Secretary Austin is in the nuclear chain of command. The White House, the National Military Command Center, all have to know where he is and whether he's accessible at all times in case, heaven forbid, there is some sort of an attack on the United States, or even an attack on Washington, D.C., that he needs to be, directly involved in the response and a potential response to. What we did learn late last night was that his chief of staff, Kelly Magsamen, was sick at the time. And now the Pentagon is saying that that was the reason that the White House wasn't notified until Thursday. The reality is that really just doesn't pass the smell test. It doesn't make sense that no one else would have notified the White House in 3 days, Mika and Joe.
NBC News national security and military correspondent Courtney Kube, thank you very much. And Courtney brings up that if something were to happen, there was some sort of attack on the U.S., you'd need to know where the Secretary of Defense is and be able to reach him immediately. Let's just keep in mind that that's the unthinkable right now. There are two realities, two hot wars going on that the United States is directly involved with.
Right. And the threat of a much larger regional war breaking out in the Middle East.
Lebanon, Iran.
You've got, obviously, what's going on in Ukraine. You have the possibility all the time of a war possibly breaking out in China and Taiwan. So, Jonathan Lemire, we know Secretary Austin, like him, value his service to America. This does remind me, though, it seems like a lifetime ago when we were on this show and started reading an interview, Stan McChrystal, what Stan McChrystal was saying about Barack Obama back in 2010. And I just said it then. If you're president of the United States, you're the commander-in-chief. You've got a chain of command. And just like you can't have a runaway general that's mocking the president of the United States to a reporter, you certainly can't have a Secretary of Defense that goes missing for 3-4 days, and it's terrible. I hope the general is doing better. I hope the secretary is doing better. That said, though, he does not have a responsibility to tell the media that he's in the hospital. He does, the chain of command, have a responsibility to tell the President of the United States what's going on. I mean, it's shocking that Joe Biden didn't know. It's shocking that Jake Sullivan didn't know. It's shocking that all of these people that nobody in the White House knew that have been working in lockstep, whether it's dealing with Israel, whether it's dealing with Ukraine, whether it's dealing with China, whether it's dealing with all the other problems out there. I'm just going to say this. I don't see how a guy disappears for 3 days and doesn't tell the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, the White House that he's gone and continues working in that position. I just don't. And I like Secretary. I think Secretary Austin's done a wonderful job. This is just one of those very clear-cut issues.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. It's a bad one. I mean, White House, I've been reporting on this story for days now, and when Secretary Austin's one of his subordinates showed up at a White House meeting at the end of last week, Jake Sullivan was confused. Like, where's the secretary? What's going on? And only after that were they informed that the secretary was in the hospital. And we're right to underscore the timing here. It comes as the U.S. is ramping up its presence in the Red Sea, going after the Houthis, after an airstrike called in by the U.S. that Secretary Austin had approved pre-hospitalization. But it's a time of real rising tensions in the Middle East. Ukraine as well. We're not clear if the Congress is going to pass funding to support Kyiv. It is stunning that this.
Jonathan, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Can I ask you, do you have it confirmed? Is it rock solid confirmed that the Secretary of Defense did not notify the Commander-in-Chief
It is
that he was not at his post for 3 days? Is that confirmed?
It
or
is.
Are we going to hear, oh, they talked on the side and no? Are you hearing from the White House that the Commander-in-Chief was unaware of the fact that the Secretary of Defense was not at his post for 3 days?
Yeah, we and others have reported for days now that President Biden did not know. So if suddenly another narrative was to be presented, that's not one known to not just reporters, but senior White House staff. There's no belief that Secretary of Defense Austin notified President Biden about what had happened. Now, the two men have spoken, and we are told by senior officials that for now, Secretary of Austin's job is safe. We know that President Biden does not like firing people. We know President Biden is fond of Secretary Austin. We also know President Biden is very proud of the continuity, how he's had very little turnover in his senior staff since taking office. In fact, only one cabinet member departure, which is pretty remarkable heading in here into his 4th year in office. And I think also because this is such a tense time around the globe, there's a sense that this would not be a good time to change leadership at the Pentagon. So things, of course, could change. There's been a real uproar from both Republicans, but also we should note some Democrats about the real breakdown in communication here. And there's been explanations that Secretary of Austin is a very private man. He doesn't like talking about things regarding his personal life and a health issue like this. That said, it is a breakdown in the chain of command, and there will continue to be real questions raised as to what happened, even if for now, and I stress for now, Secretary of Austin's job seems secure.
If it makes you feel any better, I have already put evac on alert. He's ready to go if it comes to that.
General, I can assure you, Chapo let me into the war room to see you, so I had to hack my way onto this frequency.
This better be critical, Wheelie.
Sir, come on, when is it not? Please. Okay, couple of things. I'm running low on the dough. I was thinking about taking a couple of months sick leave, maybe starting today. And, oh yeah, I intercepted a transmission from Megatron.
Then send it through.
Yes, sir, right away, sir. And so I'll assume that we're good on the other stuff.
This is your last warning, insects. Relinquish what remains of the Allspark.
So who's the insect? You? What?
The
Who's the
Autobots cannot
insect?
protect you. They were defeated on our world, and we will defeat them here.
The Megatron.
This was just a diversion. Security, please bring him up. Ravage, he's already inside. Deeds! Give me an update on that reserve. Boss readiness. What was his name?
Evac, sir.
Right, evac.
She's right in front.
We are facing a heavy, sustained attack. They appear to be after the Allspark craft. General! General!